Good morning. We are continue to work on the types of conflicts. This one is political conflict. Political conflict is huge, right? So political conflicts can manifest in different forms. Conflict cannot be separated from politics because of the involvement of multiple actors with different competing interests. Political conflicts can stem from a combination of factors such as fragile state institutions, breakdown in social contract, political marginalization, prior violence, scare resources, unjust resource exploitation, environmental issues, lack of social cohesion, search for identity and inequality, bad governance or weak state institutions can push the limits of destabilize the political system. Well, political conflicts is pretty wide. Well, we know there is a war in Ukraine, so Russia invaded Ukraine, and they are still just fighting. All people thought that it's gonna be a short war, but it's lasting like 2 months, more than 2 months right now, and lots of people died, both from Ukraine and Russia. I don't quite, know everything, but with my best knowledge, that could be prevented. So Ukraine knew how not to have war, and Russia knew how to avoid the war. And surprisingly, all other countries knew how to avoid it, and they know how to stop it. They don't want to do it. That's the problem. I think that's the kind of huge problem. Huge problem. They are calculating their own country's profits or benefits, while lots of civilians, women, men, girls, boys, babies, and animals in Ukraine, and Russian soldiers, they are dying. News for a couple of days ago or last week, it says that lots of Ukrainian women got raped by Russian soldiers. Well, that's the tragedy. They were in a country, Soviet Union, but they got separated by third parties' intervention, and then but they are having war and killing each other right now. That's political conflict. As I told you last week, America and other countries, actually Ukraine, requested other countries to send ammos and missiles and grenades, but lots of countries are refusing it because they have certain relationship with Russia also. All countries are connected. If I choose Ukraine, I'm going to lose from Russia. If I choose Russia, I'm going to lose from Ukraine. Or if I choose Russia, I'm going to lose from United States, Europe, something like that. Okay? If a country choose Ukraine, if a country choose Russia, the country can lose from Ukraine and some other countries. Well, those are very complicated, but the problem is that almost all countries are just looking at it because they want to get something. Lots of countries know that they're gonna lose some from the war, but at the same time, they can get from the war something they like. The most recently, the England decided to send some, missiles and grenades and ammos to Ukraine, but they're not gonna send their own troops. It's no good idea, right? But as soon as I heard that news, I was thinking, why England did not want to stop the war, but send some, killing things. That is kind of sad. Lots of countries, they are trying to calculate their own interest rather than, making peace, political conflict. Political conflicts is happening to all over the places, not only in Ukraine, but Democrats, Republicans, they are fighting for something. So, well, I understand that because people want to have their own interest. And those are way more important than anything else. They can have money, they can have better situations, conditions, they can have a better life. In the long term, in the short term, they are calculating. So the political conflict is pretty hard. Recently, Korea passed a prosecutor, decided prosecutors for limiting prosecutors' power. They didn't have that, but they had something because there was police corruption. But they just, utilized the power they got given by the country for, they misused that power for a long time, for the past 70 years. No one can doubt it. Everybody knows it. But for that, because of it, some political parties like it, some political parties don't like a political party, they used to use the prosecutor's power, and sometimes they relied on the power. They don't like it. They're not happy right now. But the new law they just passed. It's not just perfect yet, but it's the first step for that. There are lots of corruptions here or there, so things are happening, and many things are going crazy. So it's kind of sad. Attempts by government at coercion and representation in order to retain its power and authority can provoke rebellious activities from disenfranchised groups. Acts of insurgency in one of the resultant effects of bad governance, which can lead to political conflict. Empirical work shows that the best predictor of political violence is a set of permissive conditions for insurgency. At the center of which is financially, organizationally, and politically weak central government. When a government shows too much power on people, especially for the weak and people, there can be, and definitely resistances can be started. There was a bad history in South Korea that president wanted to justify his power and minimize his political opponent's power. So he sent a troop. He sent specialized troops to Gwangju and ordered helicopters to shoot them down, and the special troops they let the special troops drink alcohols because killing others is kind of hard work and they can get traumatized, so they just had them to drink a little bit and then ordered to kill and shoot people. So that's what people can do. For their own profits and benefits, they even kill others. Spreading gossip, it's just the beginning. They just kill people. Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, he knew that there's gonna be a war, but he just started that. Putin, he knew how to stop it or avoid it, but he just did it. And both parties are blaming each other. Political conflicts, that's horrible. Sometimes ethnic groups who feel disenfranchised by bad governance or marginalization may form a political organization to revolt against the government, or they may make attempts to secede. For example, the Igbos made attempts to secede from Nigeria to form the Biafra state. Their decision was based on the notion that they were denied the equitable political representation and power at the national level, which they perceived as non-recognition and marginalization of the Igbo community in the Nigerian political system. Yeah, you know, a person can. It is hard for a person to resist to a political party or to the government. So, but when the person has some other people who have similar ideas and same pains from the government, and they, you know, and the person can, you know, bring more people together, and they can start their own party. So there are some parties, you know, Republicans, Democrats, and Greens, and Labours, blue colors. There are many, you know, political parties, and communism also. Okay. So, as a political party, they can just fight against to the government and other party, and that's what typically people do. The Republic of China, also known as Taiwan, is locked in a legitimacy battle with the People's Republic of China (PRC), as ROC is seeking recognition as an autonomous state within the Chinese territory. The political status of ROC, Taiwan, is yet to be determined. The aftermath of the Chinese Civil War witnessed the newly installed People's Republic of China (PRC) and the decimated Republic of China locked in a struggle for governmental legitimacy by the international community. At present, ROC does not control its own territory nor its populations. Taiwan, and Hong Kong even, because Hong Kong was returned to China by England. England occupied Hong Kong for 100 years. Yes, that was nonsense too. That was nonsense. If that is not nonsense, you only just, you know, occupy your house, your families, your wife, and do you think it will be okay? No. No. What if the United States can be occupied by Philippines? Can you accept it? No. I will resist it. I fight for it. No. It will not be happened. It cannot be happened. Okay? But that's what European countries did. You know, England occupied Hong Kong for 100 years and returned it to China. And before that, lots of people from Hong Kong immigrated to Canada, especially Vancouver, and to many other countries, because they didn't want to stay in under the communism, so they just chose the freedom. Okay. So when I visited Vancouver 27 years ago, and I saw lots of Chinese people, I thought I thought that was the Chinatown, but the taxi driver said, not yet. I saw lots of Chinese signs on the street, but he said Chinatown is not yet, but there were lots of Chinese businesses, small businesses on the street. So Taiwan is struggling, and Hong Kong people, they don't want to be part of China, even though the land is returned to China. So Taiwan and Hong Kong, they still want to have their own government, own autonomous government state, but China doesn't like it because that's returned to China, so the China doesn't want to do it. So those countries are just struggling, and fighting. But Taiwan and Hong Kong, those countries are pretty small, and but they are still trying to work with China. China. It's not going to be easy. Okay. Does not possesses the political status to carry out the usual functions of a government, such as engaging in relations with other states. Political conflicts also rise from the activities of political organizations who pursue political goals, such as overthrowing the government or urging political officers to step down as a result of misconduct. Some of these political organizations end up becoming political parties who stand to contest elections or aim to be granted the status of a political party so that they can be part of the government. So those kind of political conflicts are happening all over the places. So I don't think there is any country without any political conflicts. So political conflicts are very common, and it's happening, in many, all countries, and even in a country, there are political conflicts also, always. There are generation gaps, and parents can have different ideas with their children, and whenever we have elections in the United States, and parents and children can discuss and debate and even argue or fight each other for the political opinions and those things are happening because people have their own value, people have their own idea. So those are all different. It's all different. So this particular conflict can serve as an avenue for citizens to protest against the inequality or breakdown in social contract between the state and the voters. It is to draw the attention of the state to a weak social cohesion within the society, which can in turn lead to a revolution by adamant individuals. And political theory assumes that power is rooted in every conflict involving the state. When different political actors compete for power, they are bound to clash. For any actor to gain access to power, he needs to disable or eliminate his opponent. Political conflict can be resulted in lots of killing and massacres and struggles and splittings, and those things make this society not stable at all. And when we have the economical problems, what is happening right now, and especially and when we have public health problems like pandemics, coronavirus pandemics, and lots of Americans blamed China, but nobody knows that the coronavirus started from China or not. I'm not Chinese, but any scientist cannot pinpoint that is started from China. Some people call that is Wuhan virus, the place the coronavirus broke in public areas. But even UN, they just decided not to call that Wuhan virus, because nobody can say that is started right from Wuhan. But lots of Europeans and Americans attacked Chinese people or Asian people because they don't know which is which, right? We don't know. Asians don't know which is which. The European Americans, whether they came from Germany, Sweden, or whatever, because those are all mixed usually. So nobody knows, and European people and African American people, they can't tell which is which, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, or Vietnamese or whatever. So the Asians know, we can guess, and Europeans know each other's, but so they just decided to attack any Asian, because that was their way of exploding their fear, anger, and all other things. But those were very, very primitive and rude, and it was non-Christian ways of solving those problems they had. We have had lots of pandemics on this earth, and we cannot blame. Maybe when we find some, we can do that, but basically there are all kinds of coronaviruses and flus. There are all kinds of flus. There's so many flus. I didn't know that there are so many kinds of flus. Every year, flu viruses are all different. So, and so on. And there are civil conflict. For a conflict to qualify as a civil war, it must be within the territory of a state, even if external actors involved. The conflict must be sustained by actors who aim towards a plausible goal. The number of internal actors must be numerically important, such that it threatens the monopoly of state power. Civil war is a politically organized, large-scale, sustained, physically violent conflict that occurs within a country, principally among large, numerically important groups of its inhabitants, or citizens over the monopoly of physical force within the country. So civil war, like the civil war in the United States, so North and South fought for a few years, and they killed each other a lot. So the South wanted to keep the slavery system, but the North just wanted to abolish the slavery system. Again, but nowadays, we call the South must be more conservative, and there are lots of churches and even the Bible belts. then how come Christians can support slavery system? So what they are believing is different what they understand. So I think that happened. Still happen. Is God racist? No. He's creator. He's creating whites, blacks, and yellows, all kinds of colors. He's the creator. As long as you believe in God, you cannot be racist. You cannot. So when you are racist, you cannot be Christians. You don't say you are Christians. Well, you can be saved by the faith, but Christians, oh my goodness, I don't know. I can't say, maybe Christians can misunderstand this and that, but it is so simple. God is the creator, God creates all kinds of colors, and we cannot be racist. How Christians can be racist? I don't think that is possible. So if you believe in God, you are not supposed to be racist. A civil war is not just a sufficiently large group of people over a sufficiently long time who make trouble for the government and undermine security, such as large drug cartels, because they do not aim to possess the monopoly of force. Civil wars must entail large-scale and sustained internal political violence to distinguish them from intense but limited episodes of political violence that contest the monopoly of force, such as political assassinations, mutinies, or coups. Some American presidents got assassinated by the killers who hate the presidents because of the ideas and political, practices. So they just, hate those presidents, and they eventually killed those presidents, and that is kind of sad history. Now, American presidents are using the catalog bulletproof limousine. I mean, we have to protect our presidents. That's what all countries have to do. Which means political leaders can be targeted by their enemies and opponents and crazy people. Solving the problem by killing others, that is dangerous. That is no good idea. But that's what's happening. 122 people got shot in LA for the last 4 months. In LA. Which means there will be roughly 500 people will be killed in LA this year. It's a lot of people. 500 people. A person I know, she lost her granddaughter by gun shooting. Unbelievable. They kill others because they don't like those people. They kill others. They kill each other because they hate each other. So it doesn't matter, whether they are right or wrong. They just think that, they are right and others are wrong. Or even though they know they are wrong, they hate others because they are right. Because they are different. Because they got angry on them. Because they lose their benefits or profits because of the person. Because they got shamed. People don't think about what they have been doing, what they are doing, but they just think about others. No matter what, they don't like those people because they are different. So they kill each other. Civil wars usually progress when there is a weak government or weak administrative rule, police force or military capabilities in the area captured by rebel groups or paramilitaries is not effective. In order to differentiate a civil war from an internal armed conflict, both the state and the internal actors must be actively involved in the conflict. Resistance during the conflict must also be effective. Well, there are many other reasons too. Many other reasons. For example, there were, riots in LA riots. An African American drove white little sedan Hyundai accent, or there must be a Hyundai accent. He was driving the car and he violated something maybe, and police officers chased the person for a long time, and finally he gave up. So he just gave up, but the white police officers beat him. They were not supposed to do it. Once people gave up, they just handcuff and bring it to the police station. But they were chasing the person with angry, and they just ended up beating the person severely, very cruelly. Okay, so the African American Rodney King, he got beaten, but later on the judge sentenced him not guilty to the police officers, and African Americans got angry, and they just came out to the streets, and the riot started. But the police officers, they never blocked them. They just put the kind of front line, not in the downtown, not in the Koreatown, but they decided to open the Koreatown, and they can steam out in Koreatown. So they just robbed Koreatowns, and they fought with Koreans with armed, and they just shoot each other and kill each other. And the police officers and all other just security people got camped they just protected Hollywood because there are lots of rich people. So they didn't do anything, but they just stayed there until the African Americans colonized and messed the Koreatown and other places. It's also called LA riots. So I think there was a racial conflict and there was the political conflict too. And conflict between African Americans and with other, people, especially the Korean Americans. eventually that they just steamed out and they just robbed. They didn't try to protest in order, but they just messed with other businesses and they just stole and robbed lots of things. Stealing, robbing, that was not related with the non-guilty sentence on the white that European Americans police officers. It was not related, but they just did whatever they want for stealing out. Or some people just took advantage of it. So we still remember the LA riots. The main distinction between civil, internal war, intrastate war, and interstate war, extrastate, colonial war, imperial war, was the itinerary internally of the war to the territory of the sovereign state and the participation of the government as a combatant. Civil war is further distinguished from other forms of internal armed conflict by the requirement that state violence should be sustained and reciprocated, and that the war sees a certain threshold of deaths, typically more than 1,000 people. So a lot of people, right? In the last 2 decades, civil wars have become the most common type of conflict. In Africa, there have been countless episodes of civil wars, and it's still going on right now. They're still killing each other. And almost all countries in the sub-Saharan and Great Lakes regions have experienced it. Empirical studies done by some scholars have demonstrated that civil wars are triggered by political and economic reasons. The civil war in Sierra Leone was fought for over 9 years as the government and the rebels were actively engaged in the conflict. The conflict was prolonged because the rebels sought to have a monopoly of state power and to gain control of the diamond mineral deposits in Kono District. Efforts to reach a peace deal were sabotaged by the rebels at various times because the offer for peace was not lucrative enough. And because the first negotiation did not include them being part of the government. Despite the fact the RUF recruited external actors, the RUF members were mainly soldiers from Sierra Leone, fighting to topple the government. Minerals in Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, is a contributory factor to the conflict. The mining of tin, tantalum, and tungsten in eastern DRC is used as a source of conflict financing by rebel groups. So, because that is the money, they need the money. They want to have money for fighting for their own lives. So, they usually fight on money, right? So all countries and political conflicts and all kind of conflicts are mainly because of the money, because of the profits. They say they are fighting for something noble, but usually they are fighting on money. Over 50% of the mines in eastern DRC are controlled by armed groups who demand taxes, bribes, or other payments for the minerals extracted from the mines. Although extremely difficult to know the amount of funding with certainty, 2010 estimate from the findings of the Enough Project, an NGO leading a campaign focused on crimes against humanity, places the figure between 140 and 225 million in 2008. This prompted government's approaches in the area of regulatory law for due diligence for international certification, section 1502 of the U.S. Dodd-Frank Act imposes the requirements of the U.S. listed companies to establish the conflict-free status of the tin, tantalum, and tungsten used in their products. So those kind of conflicts, especially the civil conflict, is pretty tough, and they're killing each other. And South and North Koreans were fighting, and they eventually split it. They were not supposed to be split like that, but people went go crazy. They went crazy, and whenever you see any struggles or problems, there are enemies, there are devils can come, and they can just support one party so that they can kill each other. So, for example, A doesn't like B, but there are fighting between B and C, and A just support C, so C can kill B. And those things are happening in many places. Not only between the world, between the countries, not only between the racist or civilian groups, but that's what happening in working places you are in right now in 2022. Because people know how to play. And we know how people are playing, because that's what people do. That's what people do. How they act, how they just what they do, what they people are crazy. People are crazy. Even animals do. They work together when they can kill others. And then later, after that, they fight each other too. That's what people usually do. Recently, I just knew that a person was kind of enemy with this person, but they are working together for against somebody else. They were enemies for more than 10 years, but now they are friends. That's what happened to Jesus. When people wanted to, a group, Sadducees, priests, Pharisees, scribes, when they wanted to kill Jesus, even Sadducees, they were enemy with Pharisees, but they became friends because both parties didn't like Jesus. They wanted to kill Jesus, or they were hoping that Jesus can die soon or sooner. So at the time, they were enemies, but they became friends for killing Jesus together. Because that is more effective. Because that is the way of justification. They want to justify what they are doing, so they want to get more people. Oh, more people. I have this many people, so we can kill this person. See, we are many, you are little, you are few, and we can justify ourselves by killing these few, which is right. It's okay when you are, but you know that you are wrong, but as long as you are there, but the right people passed away, and who's gonna blame? Who's gonna blame you? Who's gonna judge you? You're gonna judge yourself. Non-guilty. Okay? That's what people do. They don't think, because this is what happened to Christians and churches and mission groups, because they don't think about what God wants, but they just consider their pockets, their profits, their benefits. Unless those kind of things will not be happened. But that is happening. That is happening, okay? So that is kind of painful. It's kind of painful. Right? So we took a look what kinds of, not all, but some kinds of conflicts between people, between countries, between races, between civilian groups, and religions. The religious conflicts huge. As we took a look, it's huge. They can kill each other anytime they want. I don't know. It's just scary. No. Even crooked Islams. Islams are not. I don't think Islams are not killing each other always, but some aggressive, Muslims, certain group, just a few groups, they just kill each other, and when they kill others, they really glorify. The more they kill, the more glory they can get in the heaven, and it's wrong. So killing others, killing people, it's not God wants, because all are created by God. So how come we kill each other with no reason? Even though we have particular reasons, killing others because we don't like, we hate. Oh, that's not acceptable. Oh my goodness. But that's what people do, unfortunately. Okay. So we want to just take a look. We are move on to the next step next week. See you next week.